Welcome to the Soca Mom Summit. I am so glad that you have joined us. We are about to talk about film. And after this, we're going to have a movie night. A lot of fun. You can start working on your popcorn now. I don't know how long it's going to take you, but if you got to go to the store, send somebody, get started on your snacks. Because after this, we've got a movie night for you. So we are going to talk about Caribbean film and makers and watchers, right? What to watch, how you can get involved, and we'll go from there. So these three ladies are experts on Caribbean film, and I am not. So they will be moving through this conversation without me, but not before they introduce themselves. First, we'll start with Alicia.
Hey guys, Alicia Cristiani here, and I am here representing Third Horizon, the Caribbean American media collective that is dedicated to supporting, celebrating, producing, and educating everyone on the amazingness that is Caribbean film. I'd like to throw it to my fellow panelists. Kathy?
I'm Kathy Kareem. I'm the founder of Storyplay Media, which is a company producing films for Caribbean audiences and Caribbean families in particular. And I'm also a writer, director, and movie consultant. On to you, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Osborne. I am the founder of Island Indies. We offer creative services for Caribbean creators to help them develop digital strategies for their projects. We also partner with Kathy to provide a development support with our program called Script Concierge, and our sister company, Be Discovered, provides casting services for Caribbean creators with a directory of Caribbean screen actors from around the world that's called Slate.
So we're going to have a brief conversation. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but we just want to discuss what Caribbean film is and how it matters to both the creators and the consumers. You know, everyone who's interested and invested in creating film and bringing our stories to life, to the screen, and everyone who's invested in watching and consuming and dying and waiting to see ourselves on that screen. How can we serve both of these communities? How can we help creators bring their stories to life? And how can we help consumers find those stories, support those stories, and share those stories with others? Let's start with why is now a great time to be watching Caribbean film?
So everybody's at home right now because of COVID-19, even though we're slowly peeking back out into the world. And in addition to COVID, as if that wasn't enough that we were going through this health pandemic, we're also at a very powerful time right now in terms of our global social situation, where people are really empowered to demand the best for themselves and their communities, especially communities that have been historically disenfranchised or underrepresented, like Black communities and Caribbean communities. So I think because of that, now is a really exciting time to be interested in Caribbean film, because we have people thinking about how to grow economies in communities where, you know, typically they don't have economic power. And I know regionally, a lot of our leaders have been looking at how do we diversify our economy as Caribbean countries. As Caribbean communities, we're looking at how do we build our economic strength. As Caribbean movie lovers, we are looking at how can we see ourselves on screen? How do we see images that actually represent Caribbean people? We all remember, I think, the pride of seeing like a Winston Duke pass on the screen in Black Panther, knowing that he was from the Caribbean. We all know the pride of, even if it's an athletic event, seeing a Bolt on the screen and knowing what that means, knowing that he comes from the Caribbean and that he represents us. So we know how empowering it can be to see people who are from the Caribbean and stories that are from the Caribbean on the big screen. And for all these reasons, I think it's a really exciting time right now for us to be thinking about how do we find films that represent our culture, and how do we encourage more making of those films in a way that can grow our economies.
Great points. Great points. Rachel, do you have anything to add on this? Why is now such a great time to be watching Caribbean films?
I think to add to what Kathy said, now is a great time because people are at home, right? So people are seeking out content more. People are also seeking out, like she said, Caribbean content or Black content more. So it's a great opportunity for creators to get their work in front of new audiences. And new doesn't just mean like a new region, but when we're thinking about the digital platform, how can creators actually touch people that never would have seen their films before? Because not everybody knows about some of the platforms that we're going to talk about in a bit. So I think it's a really good time for us to, celebrate and also spread that message.
I agree. I think now is also a great time for creators, because I feel like now is never been so quote unquote easy to create a film. The access to the technology, you don't necessarily need specialty knowledge and specialty equipment. You can whip out your phone and make a super engaging, interesting, intriguing film, right in your backyard. You can get on Google and learn how to write a script, how to cast. Just the ability and ease of access these days really empowers people who may have always wanted to make a film and didn't have access or knowledge or mentors to really find a way into that space much more easily than before. So, and as a result of that, we're seeing a lot more content. There's a lot more support from Caribbean countries, from the governments supporting the growing filmmaking industries. And as a result, we as consumers have more of a wider breadth of choices to pick from, more thrillers. Because before, maybe it would have been a lot more documentaries. And you certainly still get a lot of that out of the Caribbean, but you're getting a lot more narrative films, some comedies, some thrillers, children's films. Now it's just, I think it's like a bit of a renaissance happening in the industry. So with this renaissance, isn't it though? But so with this renaissance, where do you find these films? Everyone's like, oh, that's going to be amazing to see my people and my culture and my folklore on screen. But I feel like a lot of people don't know where to go to find that. Where do you guys suggest that people go to find their films?
So one of the easiest ways I think to find the films is going to be to find platforms that specialize in Caribbean content. One of those platforms is Storyplay TV. We have a very small but growing library of content that you can rent or purchase or watch for free. We tend to curate content that is geared towards families. So it's family friendly, generally speaking, with a rating of PG-13 or general audience. So if you're looking for a place to find films that are good for the whole family, definitely check out Storyplay TV. And the great thing about supporting films on Storyplay TV is that 100% of your purchase goes to the film creators. We don't take a cut, because we understand that the film industry is emerging, and right now our role as Storyplay TV is to just be a facilitator to help connect audiences with all these great films that are out there. So you can start there.
Awesome. That's amazing, especially that you guys focus on family-friendly films.
Yes. You mentioned that we're having a renaissance in film right now, but there's still a real dearth when it comes to content that's for either kids or that's family-friendly. We have a lot of stories out there, but a lot of them aren't appropriate for the whole family. So we're trying to do our part to see what we can do to find more films like that, and also to make more films like that.
Rachel, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I do have a suggestion. And I think what Kathy said is important too, because she's also building a pipeline. And this company, Caribbean Tales here in Toronto, they have a festival that they have annually around the time of TIFF. They have a pipeline, which is an incubator that Kathy and I were a part of. And they also have a streaming service. So you can watch movies, series, shorts. So it's great that, we're not just looking at how do we get our films seen, but also how do we educate people to come through that pipeline so that we have more variety and perspective in what we're working on.
And to add to that list, one more platform, I'm going to plug my people's platform. I'm a member of the Third Horizon Media Collective, which is a Caribbean American media collective here based in Brooklyn, New York, and Miami, Florida. And we also have a streaming platform, studioanancy.tv, where we show a range of films from across Caribbean, mostly shorts, independent shorts, and a few children's films, but as you said, Kathy, there's not a lot of that kind of content. Some are free, some you rent, some you can buy. We do keep a cut. We have some operating costs, but we do make sure to give most of the percentage to the filmmakers if you rent or buy, because filmmaking is not necessarily a very lucrative endeavor. If you're not hooked up to a big Hollywood, Nollywood, whatever studio. So, we do try to give back to the filmmakers so they can see some return on their investment. But these are 3 awesome platforms, and they sometimes overlap, sometimes not, but I'm happy to see, there's space and room for all of them, and even more coming up, I'm sure, to address all the different needs, because, as with any community, we're not a monolith. We all have we want to see different things. We want different things to be served to us, and each of these platforms meets different needs. And across all, we can meet the needs of our audience.
Yeah, and I think that goes to one thing that a discussion that we were having before about, even though you might see Caribbean films on bigger platforms, we should also be requesting them. So we saw this happen with Sprinter. Sprinter came out and it was on Netflix. It's a Jamaican film by Storm Salter, and it was on Netflix US at first, and Jamaican Twitter was just not happy with that. Jamaica wasn't happy with that. So they pushed and pushed and pushed. I don't know if it was in the timeline, the pipeline from before, but really quickly after the noise started, it was put on international Netflix. So I think it's very important. Netflix also has a page where you can actually go and request a film. So if you want to see a Caribbean film on there and something's coming out, you see trailers for it, definitely go and just request it, because that data, whether or not they put it, that data is going to help our industry, right? So if you want to keep seeing things more on platforms that you're already paying for, definitely request them.
That's a good point. I did not realize that. I thought they were always on the international version of Netflix.
It came out on US first, and then it was just like, why can't I see a Jamaican film in Jamaica? That was a conversation that was happening. And then a couple days later, like I said, I don't know if it was scheduled, but I know there was a big uproar, and then it was all of a sudden on like Canadian Netflix and Jamaican Netflix. Yeah, because I actually paid for it on Apple TV. I watched it on Apple TV because it wasn't available in Canada.
I see.
Yeah,
it's important. We need to support our own platforms, but we also need to, I believe, we also need to recognize the importance of being able to be on these larger, more mainstream platforms, because having a voice and having a presence and being represented there also boosts our creators. It boosts their ability to make money off of their films. It boosts their exposure, gives them opportunity to be seen by people in power that may not have been able to see it before. So I think there's definitely both. We need to support our more niche platforms, but we also need to be at Netflix's, Hulu's, whoever's door and being like, hey, y'all didn't hear about this film? Why are you not showing it? Caribbean people are massive. We want to see this. Put it on. So I think that's also helping with why Netflix. It's not that many, but what was Sprinter, See You Yesterday, slowly they're recognizing, oh, this is a community to be reckoned with. We can't just throw anything black and say that they'll be happy with that. We want to see specific content specific to our experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So about that content, what is you ladies' favorites or one of your favorites Caribbean films?
Well, I've been, it always changes. I have a lot of favorites. This little lady here, right, would kill me if I don't say Big Man Dan. Because Big Man Dan is one of her favorites. And it's a short that I produced a few years ago. And I think it's one of my favorites as a creator, because, it was important to me to get that story out there. So you can watch it on Storyplay TV. Look for Big Man Dan. But other than that short, one of the most impactful films I've ever seen is a film by Horace Ove called Pressure. It is hailed as the first Black British film, Black British feature film, I should say. And right now, with everything that's happening with the climate of police violence and racism, it's a film that was made in 1975, but it's crazy how much all of the issues that the film looks at are still relevant. It kind of feels like it was made yesterday, which is not necessarily a good thing, right? Because look how many decades have passed, and all of the themes that they're looking at are still relevant. So just to tell you a little bit about the story real quick, it's a coming of age story about this teenager who is a second generation West Indian British person, right? Mm-hmm. So his parents are straight from Trinidad, and he now is dealing with coming of age in Britain and learning that the color of his skin and his West Indian heritage means that things aren't going to be fair. Jobs that he's qualified for, he can't get. The police are harassing him for no reason. He's discovering things like Black Power and the Black Power movement and why people are so impassioned about it. And, there's a really powerful scene where he confronts his mom, who's very old school and who's just like, you're embarrassing me with all of this rebellion stuff. Stop embarrassing me. We the people in our country, we just need to humble and just be grateful for whatever they give us. And he's like, nah, mommy, we can't do that. So it's a really, really good film that looks at intergenerational conflict in West Indian culture. And it also looks at like the immigration experience as well as racism. And it's by a Trinidadian filmmaker called Horace Ove. You can watch it on the bfi.org film player. And I see that they have a 14-day free trial, which means that you can go there, watch it for free, and do as Rachel and Alicia suggested and request to see more Caribbean films on the BFI website.
That sounds amazing. I've never heard of this film. I need to go watch immediately.
You do. It's so good. It's so good.
Rachel, do you have a fave or two?
I have one that a recent fave. I can't really say that I have a fave just because I watch film as education. So I don't really try to come into watching a film or a TV show with any kinds of like, am I going to like this? I'm watching it for other things. But recently on Studio Anansi, I did watch a short called Sugar, and I really liked it because it wasn't political. It was impactful in that it was showing the struggle of a young girl and like what she had to do to take care of her family. And it spoke about some issues, but I like it because it wasn't the typical like inner city gun. It wasn't any of that violence type thing. So it really resonated with me because it was also shot well. Like I like the style that it was shot in. So I would say Sugar on Studio Anansi is one of my recent faves because it showed something, a different style, a different way of presenting a story, and it was also a really great cast, and I'm just obsessed with casting. So like it was a good ensemble cast. So that's something that I think people should watch. It's a short, you can rent it. I did. It was really good. I also like, this is not a film or short. It's not a short or a feature, but I also like Losing Patience. It's a mini series. That one also, because it took the story from a different angle. You can watch it on the Vimeo for the director, but Losing Patience was also one that I really like.
Awesome. I've heard of Losing Patience. I'm going to have to add that to my watch list.
It's starring Savannah. She's an artist in Jamaica.
Oh, I did see that. That was really good. It's like a series. It was so funny. So well done. Well done. I recommend it. Yeah, it was really funny.
It's like those films, I know there has been conversations just around Black film, not necessarily Caribbean film, where it's just like, do we need to be always producing things that are like trauma related to our traumas? And it's like, these are relatable in a way that it's not related to like systemic trauma. And sometimes for me, I feel like I just need that kind of thing, from us. So that's why those two, like, they show struggle and conflict, but not in a way where it's like you're fighting a system or the government or anything like that. So that's why I chose those two.
Yeah. Can't have heavy films all the time.
No, you need a break.
Sometimes a girl want to laugh.
You need to laugh every now and again. You need to watch a big man down and just crack up.
Or you need to find a film that have a real cute guy in it. Like the one I'm recommending.
Oh, good.
So Storm Salter did
listening.
Storm Salter did Sprinter, which is on Netflix now. But one of his first feature is Better Must Come, which dramatizes a period of time, I think in the 1970s in Jamaica, when I didn't know that political factions were hiring local gangs to, like wage war against the other political campaign. So it has some like political intrigue. It has a little like gang violence. Well, that doesn't sound good to say gang violence, but everyone likes a little shoot 'em up. And it has a love story with this really cute actor. Sheldon Shepherd is the lead. And it's a beautiful film about a single father falling in love while all this political intrigue is happening around. And it's just really well shot, very well written. And it was picked up by Ava DuVernay's
Array Now.
So I'm not quite sure where you can find it just yet. I know you can request screenings, though with coronavirus, I'm not sure how that goes anymore. But there are some awesome clips online that really help bring the story out. And it's just, I love to see love tales. I'm a sucker for a good romance story. Combined with a little action, and it's one of the better told ones of that genre to me.
And Sheldon was also in Idris Elba's Yardie, right?
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes, that was another good one.
Oh, I
love that. It came. Last year it showed at Brooklyn Academy Music here, and it was awesome. Yeah, that's another one to definitely check out. So now that we've gotten people, the consumers, to see, the watchers, where you should go, how you can support these films, for our creators, Rachel, looking to you specifically, how can Caribbean creators help better represent our stories, our people, our culture in film? What do you see as being important parts of the industry that we really need to like show up at, or to really support as creators, actors, writers, directors, etc.?
One thing that I've been looking at recently in terms of at the end of the process is like the distribution and how films are treated. Because the other day I was looking for Caribbean film critics and it was hard to find. But I think that in terms of like critics and sales agents and marketers and publicists, we need a lot more of those people in our industry as well. I know we focus a lot on the auteurs, the directors, producers, writers, but we also do need, in terms of making it more accessible, since this conversation is about getting it to the consumer, in order to make things more accessible, we need to, especially us in the diaspora, we need to show up in the places that can get the film seen as well, right?
Right, so that makes sense.
Yeah, anyone that follows me knows I always talk about casting. So I talk about casting also from the perspective of North American non-Caribbean people casting Caribbean characters but not using Caribbean actors. That's the whole reason why Be Discovered is even a thing. I am sick, I am tired, and I decided to shut up and just do something about it. So we're building a casting directory to make sure that no matter where they are in the world, at least we know where they are, and we're pushing visibility for Caribbean actors, because authenticity is something that we do need as well from that standpoint, because no one wants to be misrepresented, right? And I've been trying to figure out, how far does that go? Does that go also in terms of like who is writing the films? We need more Black writers, more Caribbean writers in rooms that we wouldn't normally show up in. And again, if you have been on Twitter, depending on who you follow, in the last couple of weeks, it's a big conversation about like the gatekeepers keeping us out. So how do we show up when we're not necessarily being let in at the levels that others with similar experience are being let in? And I think it's just important and if any non-Caribbeans are watching this, if you are writing a Caribbean story, consult someone, especially when it comes to language, because our language is such a big part of our culture. And that's something that I want to look into more. Like, how do we get our language to be, for lack of a better word, respected in productions? So what can we do? Because it's easy to say, oh, this studio that we know has a lot of money could spend the time or the money or do what they need to do to show up authentically when they are talking about us, right? But I think it's also up to us to show up for ourselves. So when I think about actors need to make it clear on their resume and to their agents that they are a Caribbean national or descendant, right? Like, if people don't know, we can't say, oh, they didn't cast a Black or a Caribbean person, when no one knows you exist, right? So I'm more looking at ways that, especially again, us in the diaspora, how can we make sure be in the spaces that can make a difference, and also push the narrative, like talk about these things more. That's one thing that I'm holding myself accountable to do, and I need to be more consistent at it, but talk about these things more so that, and get the right people in the conversation, people that can make a difference, because we need to focus on those perspectives. Like, we need broader perspectives, especially again, within North America and other countries that have a lot of Caribbean folks that are not seeing themselves on screen. And I think the British film industry does this really well, because I watch a lot of British productions, and when I hear patois in a British production, it's most likely going to be authentic. There might be one or two cases where it's not, but it's not like here in North America where it's just like you cringe when you see, you're supposed to be excited to see yourself on screen, but then you cringe, right? So if they can do it, it can be done here as well. So from anyone watching who's a creator, it's just advocating for that. Advocate for that authenticity. If you are in a space that is non-Caribbean and you know that something isn't right, say something, right?
And I think even that makes me think of two things. One, there's always these lists that come out that say, did you know so-and-so was Jamaican? Did you know so-and-so was Grenadian? Like, with actors or singers or dancers, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Their mom is from whatever. And they're usually a descendant, their parent or whatever is from. And then I'm like, why didn't we know that? Exactly. You know what? And then you look, and then you stop and think about the work they've done, and they've never usually have played anyone of Caribbean heritage, or, at all, which is, do the work you're given, but especially once they reach certain levels, and that they're writing, that they're pitching, that they have power that a up and coming actor or a writer doesn't have.
Yes.
We know now that your family is from Guyana. How come you never said, let me throw in a little accent in there? Well, how come you never said, let's just write in something? So to your point, once you have these opportunities, you really need to be advocating to see these stories and these people on screen.
Right, because I think about that a lot when I think about even the actors that I'm asking to be on the slate directory. I'm wondering, I'm like, can they even do anything, right? Do they have the power to, like, because they're so focused on their careers, right? It's hard for them to also focus on this advocacy of making sure they're talking up. So that's why I want to see what I can do to help them, right? Because when you see someone like, I don't want to say any names, but a big actor who also does production, I always wonder, why don't they want to do anything that is reflective of their culture? I don't know if it's that they're caught up in the system, but I think if there is a space or a renaissance, like someone's going to have to do it first. And that's why I was excited when I saw that Idris Elba was doing Yachty, because I'm like, isn't he Nigerian? Like, he's not even from the Caribbean, I don't think. I might be wrong, sorry if I am, but I was excited to see that someone who has production power, because when an actor gets to the point where they're also producing, that's when they can make the real change, right? When they're getting those producer credits and things like that, that's when they can make the real change inside the bigger system. We have a lot of people already doing the work regionally or independently, but if you're in the system, I always wonder, why don't you want to tell a Caribbean story with real Caribbean people, right?
The world may never know. Creators advocating to get more of our stories, our authentic selves on screen. I want to bring the conversation around to, once creators are doing that, what can they do to get their work out there, to maybe even make a little money off of what they've done? With my work with Third Horizon, what I've learned over the years is that creators really need to make a plan for what happens with their work once they're completed. You know, you can become so focused in on, okay, what I'm writing and what I'm casting and what I'm producing and getting all the pieces together. And now you're editing and you're in post and you're doing this. And now it's here and we're going to have a premiere and we're screening. Yay. Now what? Because a lot of times, if you build it, they're not gonna come, right? You know, you had this wonderful, beautiful baby, and you laid it out for the world. But you have to help, like with children, you have to nurture it, you have to support it, you have to make it grow. So, you know, much as creators may not find this to be in them, you need to be a bit of a businessman person too, because if you don't have a big studio behind you or a large team that can take on these things, it's your business to write out the plan and say, well, what do I want this thing to be? Am I just doing this because I enjoy it and that's enough? Do I want to make money off of it? Do I want to win awards? Do I want it seen by just my community? Do I want it seen by a wider audience? And once you make those decisions, you got to do the work to get to the goals you've decided. You know, am I going to hit the film festival circuit? Am I going to try to do lots of private screenings? Am I going to license it to streaming platforms? There's a multitude of ways to get your work out there and to make a little money. I just need filmmakers to step up and really understand that there's a lot more work once you wrap. There's a lot more work to be done. There's some filmmakers out there who are hustling. We recently had a screening of the Dominican filmmaker Michael Lees. He did a documentary of, he went into the forest in Dominica to live for 6 months, find himself, become one with nature. And then Hurricane Maria hit. So he created, and he still kept filming. And he created a film called Uncivilized. It's an amazing film. But this man is a powerhouse. When I watch it, like even after our screening, he's still tweeting and he's writing newsletters and he's out on Instagram and he's doing interviews and he's getting into festivals and he's having screenings and he's doing little licensing deals. And like, I'm amazed at the work he's putting in. And I want other filmmakers to realize, you know, if you're in it for the long haul, you got to realize the work that's going to be required of you to get your work out there.
On that note, I would urge filmmakers to take a look at what platforms are out there that allow you to take control of monetizing your films. So one of the most popular options right now for that type of independence and autonomy is a Vimeo platform called VHX. It's really intuitive and easy to use, and you can get your film up there. And then you want to make sure you have a bit of a marketing budget if you can. I know that financing is always a problem. And after you've raised the funds to get your film done, now I'm telling you, you need more money to market. But if you can raise some money to do some marketing, push the film and the trailer of it on social platforms. And you've done the work of creating a good film, you should be able to convert some of the people that find your film on social media to be buyers on your VHX site. So in addition to getting it on other streaming platforms that you may not have direct control over, if you want to take more ownership, you can try out VHX.
When we think about how big studio productions work, they have that marketing budget. They also have a publicist. They do a series of like press junkets before the film even is released, right? So they have that big ramp up. And I think, and this is one thing that I'm working on to get Island Indies to be able to help folks with, is to think about how we can do that without the big budget. So things like, there's a lot of podcasts that are Caribbean focused right now. So if you go to Caribbean podcast directory, you can see a lot of podcasts that are Caribbean focused. There's a couple on there that talk about film. You can reach communities like this one that is focused on Caribbean. So even though this is not a film community, I think reaching out to the little diaspora communities or communities specifically for Caribbean audiences, although they might not be necessarily film focused, these groups can be your audience as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of just thinking outside of the box and maybe doing even press junkets that are through Zoom or through something like this, where you seek out and invite Caribbean writers. They need work as well. Caribbean writers want to create content. So reach out to Black critics, not just Caribbean ones, Black critics, Black writers, Black publications, and set something up, create an experience around, a buzz around it. And you can do this not just when you release it, but you can find like on the anniversary of it, if your production is cause-based, say you are doing a production that is around domestic abuse, there is a month for that. So you can do something in that month as well, right? So find those awareness months. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So this is why I want to help people with that. So if anybody needs help with any of that kind of stuff, just hit me up at Island Indies, because there's a lot that we can do. We're just not used to the system of doing these things. And I think creating those pipelines, then people be more used to reaching out to us for those kinds of things.
Let's make sure creators understand what amongst this group here can we offer them? What can they come to us for when they're needing help with their films?
I've got you covered when it comes to developing your movie idea. So you have an idea and you are going to put it into a script. And if you're a creator, you know that your script is going to be the blueprint for your movie production. I can help you take that idea, make sure that you give it a good structure, make sure that you figure out the market that you're working in and what type of films you should be producing for that market if you want to make your films a commercial success. And I can set you up to make sure that you put your efforts into something that will do what you need to do what you need it to do for your career, whether that is to get it into festivals or to sell it directly to consumers.
And Rachel, how can you help the community of Caribbean
I can
creatives?
help with casting, of course, like I said, through Be Discovered, but through Island Indies, I can also help with just digital strategy in general for films. So whether you are at the development stage and you need to figure out like, how much money will I need if I need to do a marketing budget? Because sometimes it's not even something that's thought about at that point, but just to think about that so that when you are doing funding, raising money for your film, you have that number, right? So creating those digital experiences. And also commerce. If you need to add any kind of commerce to your store, I'm an e-commerce expert as well. So if you need to add merch for your movie or just sell your movie on a platform, if you need a website to be built for your film or your project or even your production company, I can also help with that.
Jeez, man, so much of talent in this room here. Well, I can assist once everyone's got their movie wrapped and they're ready to share. Through our Media Collective Third Horizon, we have produced a number of film festivals in the Caribbean and here in the United States. Third Horizon Film Festival, Tamari Film Festival, Haruna Film Festival. We've got a pop-up festival in LA. So we would love to, speak with you. Reach out. You can reach me directly at alicia@thirdhorizon.net if you're interested in getting into any of these festivals, or if you're ready to talk about, perhaps licensing your film for the Studio Nancy platform. Definitely please reach out and we can have that conversation. Is it something you just want to put up there for free for anyone to see? Do you want to charge a little something? Reach out and let's talk. We're definitely here for Caribbean creators, but we're also here for Caribbean consumers.
Yes, we are.
So the people watching the movie, what should we have to say to them?
You need to follow Storyplay TV on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. Let us know what you think of the content that's up there. If you find stuff that you like, we've got a share button on the site. You need to click that share button. Tell all your friends, tell your auntie, your cousin, them, your children, your grandma, everybody about the films that you like, and see if we can, create bigger audience for the films. And of course, if you find any films anywhere that you think are great family films, or if you create great family films, hit us up, let us know about it so that we can evangelize them and the whole Caribbean, all the West Indian families can see these films.
Ditto for StudioNancy.tv. Get online. Everybody's home. Everybody watching television. Everyone's on their device. Fire up your fave digital device and log on and find the films that you've been complaining about. The story, you've been sitting with your auntie and like, they never tell stories about Grenada, Yes, they do. They do. They're out there. Trust me. And also, what I also love to want people to know is that it's not just about the Black Caribbean. It's not just about the English-speaking Caribbean. Like, there are films from the Dutch-speaking Caribbean, the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, the French-speaking Caribbean, stories particular to Martinique, Guadeloupe, Dominican Republic, that even opened my eyes as a woman of Caribbean heritage, because I'm so focused on the Black experience, the English Caribbean speaking experience. Log on and learn more about your region, about your people. There's so much more beyond your island that you can discover from film. Any last thoughts, Rachel?
No, I'm good.
This was awesome. I love this.
Yes.
Something for everybody.
Absolutely. I'm definitely going to check out that film that you recommended, Alicia. It's Better Must Come, is it?
Yeah.
Better Must Come. Mm-hmm.
Better Must Come, because you said there are hot guys in it.
Yeah, I'm easy.
Ladies, that was an amazing discussion. Oh my gosh. I'm here making notes, like what I need to go see. Do I need to make a movie? Who do I need to call? Like,
so come on,
so
movie.
Good. Right. The film. I should have been working on this that last 9 years, right? That's why you need to record your stories in your life. But thank you all so much. And we look forward to the screening coming up after this. Thank you, Alicia, and your group for taking care of that for us. We really, really appreciate it. So that is it, everybody. I hope you took notes and check out the replay when you are ready to make that film, because these ladies are ready to help you. And listen, please don't make us listen to another bad accent again. It
We
hurts.
can't manage.
I'm like, are my ears bleeding? This is bad.
Deep in my chest, I feel it. I feel it in my chest.
It's like you just want to throw the phone or throw a shoe at the TV. Like, this is really bad. So filmmakers, producers, you don't have to live this way. We don't have to live this way. So thank you, everybody, for doing this. Thank you for joining us for the Soca Mom Summit. Please go to SocaMomSummit.com. If you missed any of the handles, because these ladies do a lot, go to their pages on SocaMomSummit.com, and you can have the full list of everything they do, how you can support them, and how you can stay in contact when you're ready to watch a good film or make a great film. All right? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.